Life of Napoleon III, Chapter 1. The Consular Sans-Souci. In the autumn of 1798, Josephine left alone with her daughter Hortense, while Napoleon was carrying war through Europe with her young son, Eugène de Beauharnais, at his side, busied herself with the welcome duty of finding a retreat for the hero when he should return. He had left commands that a place of rest and homely pleasures should be found for him either in Burgundy, which he loved, or in one of the pleasant and picturesque environs of Paris. Josephine fixed on Malmaison near Ray, and she paid for the modest chateau and domain chiefly with her dowry. Here with Hortense, she established herself personally directing the workmen and designing all those changes which in the end made the place a rare and delightful retreat, of which her lord never tired until the purple drew him to the statelier splendors of St. Cloud and Fontainebleau. Here she died, brave and cheerful, and loving to the end, and hence Napoleon withdrew from the embrace of weeping Hortense to St. Helena. Malmaison was the nursery of the empire, its cradle and its grave. Within its peaceful bounds, the scattered elements of polite society were first drawn together after the storms and excesses of the Revolution. At Malmaison, the first great salon was thrown open, and here, amid the laughing schoolgirls of Madame Campan and her vieux généraux de 20 ans, her old general of 20 years, were formed the manners that prevailed throughout the empire. Amid the flowers and the groves strolled Bernardin de Saint-Pierre, sympathetic friend of Prince Louis, Arnaud, Talma, Legouvé, Joseph Chenier, Volney, Méhul, and many more distinguished guests from the Hôtel Chanteran, waiting impatiently the return of the great captain. The ladies whom the Revolution had frightened into hiding places came forth to the gracious invitations of the Vicomte de Beauharnais' widow. The old and the new order of things, to Napoleon's great satisfaction, mingled in his wife's salons. Under the limes and plantains, and in the arbors of Malmaison, Napoleon's youthful heroes found their wives. Here with Hortense de Beauharnais, in the glory of her budding womanhood, were drawn together such women as the Countess Fanny de Beauharnais, the Countess Dudutot, Madame de Mac, Caffarelli, Andreotti, Tallien, Regnan, de Saint-Jean d'Angely, and Bourdic Villon, to whose wit Voltaire had bowed. Here, for their partners, they had such men as Gerard, Hoffmann, Dessangier, Lesnem, Cherubini, Desprez, and Deschamps, one and all, adding to the splendor of the scene which Madame Bonaparte had prepared for the return of her lord. It was in this consular Sans-Souci that Napoleon and Josephine, with their children, Eugène and Hortense, passed their happiest days. To Malmaison they escaped from the Tuileries, which Napoleon said in one of his mournful moods, where triste comme la grandeur, sad like grandeur. Indeed, the stories of his Malmaison days are the most charming of his life. In the interval of peace that followed his return from Egypt, he reveled in the pleasures of his domestic domain. He dropped his grandeur at the gates and sauntered through the avenues of lime and plantain, away to the apartment in the chateau where he would laugh and play, take a part in the arrangement of Hortense's private theatricals, and even draw up the playbill. Josephine brought to Napoleon the graces, the influences, the politeness of the world to which she belonged, and for belonging to which she and hers had cruelly suffered, and it was at Malmaison that she made her power most felt. This was her empire within that of her husband. Her fascinating manners, her tender heart, her thoroughness of her devotion to Napoleon combined to give her a complete power over her friends. Napoleon saw her value as a link between the society of the old regime and that of the new, and he unreservedly acknowledged it. She had shown as Madame de Beauharnais through the terrors of the Revolution, and it was to the widow of the noble of the old regime that the exiles of the noblesse constantly turned for help, for favor, or for place under the new standard of France. Malmaison was in its fullest glory immediately after Marengo. In the peace which followed this great battle, Napoleon spent many domestic days at his Sans-Souci, which had grown in beauty and completeness year by year and was now perfect, full of surprises and contrasts of laughing gardens and sober parkland, with artfully adjusted streams murmuring where an artist's skill had bid them flow. It was perhaps nature decked in revents, Watteau's rusticity, but there was untouched nature too, and he who chafed amid the formal parterres could wander to the wood beyond. The special charms that Josephine gave to her little kingdom, her daughter Hortense afterwards imparted to her married home. Sad place though it was to her at Saint-Leu. Josephine's gardens and grounds became justly famous for their striking variety and for the matchless collections of trees, shrubs, and flowers that she got together. Napoleon's representatives abroad, and Napoleon himself always bore in mind Josephine's passion for flowers and gladdened her with fresh favorites from every clime. She peopled her little realm with birds. Hers was the first jardin d'acclimation in France. As in her salons, she brought the men of the old time and the men of the new time together. So in her grounds she mingled the stiffness of the ruled groves, the Le Notre, with the romantic wildness of nature, which the French call the English garden.